Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality of the best hair. Now, considering that about 3 out of 4 Evil Dead movies are pretty much retelling the same story, I don't think it would be too bad of an idea to mix things up a bit. So, with that in mind, let's dive right back into the kaiju genre. It's been a damn long time since I last reviewed a kaiju film, and even though I haven't yet got a hold of the ones I've been meaning to, like Gorgo or the Holy Grail itself, Gamera 4, there are still more than enough movies in the Godzilla franchise to take a look at. Now, if I reviewed Godzilla movies exclusively, I could probably keep the show going for like half a year, but I would like to take this time to review a film that most of you have probably already heard of, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah! Named so because they weren't allowed to trademark the word destroyer, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah is actually the final film in the Heisei era of Godzilla. This does make it a bit more awkward to review considering that entire series had certain plot points and characters that followed over from movie to movie. It also doesn't help that I haven't seen every single Heisei era Godzilla film, but that is more a problem with me than with the movie. Oh yeah, and the plot. Godzilla is fucking shit up, and then another monster comes and starts fucking shit up too, and Godzilla has to kick his ass. You know, the usual. So anyway, let's take a look at Godzilla vs. Destoroyah! And allow me to stop screaming because this is the English dub, and they just call him Destroyer. Like, calmly. The film opens up to the mysterious ocean, as many a Godzilla film does. This time, however, it's from the perspective of Miki Sagusa, played by Megumi Odaka, who is heading out to Birth Island, known as Bass Island in the English dub, for a friendly neighborhood checkup on Godzilla and Godzilla Junior. However, what she finds is far from your average everyday kaiju sighting. An eruption from deep under the earth had consumed the entire landmass, leaving no trace of Godzilla or Godzilla Junior. But considering this is the first fucking minute of the film, I think it's pretty safe to say they're both still alive. The mystery of where Godzilla could be and what happened to him looms in the air, and is answered about 1 minute later.
What is that? Oh my god, it's a monster!
Okay, I get that one of them is American and the other is likely a Hong Kong native, but wouldn't news of Godzilla and the Godzilla attacks and the fucking alien invasions and the other giant monsters looming about kind of have spread a little past Japan? Oh, who am I kidding? Kotaku just write another fucking blog about Kit Kat flavored ramen. This also hints at what happened on Bass Island. The eruption wasn't your boring everyday liquid hot magma, but pure uranium. This has supercharged the already radioactive monster with even more radiation than his body can handle, causing him to glow with heat and supercharging his nuclear breath. Damn! Fucked your entire skyline, apparently. I suppose you can tell this is the finale of the Heisei era of Godzilla films, as while the monster roams the city destroying everything in its path, killing unbelievable numbers of innocent lives. The general population in the foreground is just milling about, not even remotely concerned about the appearance of a gargantuan radioactive monster causing incalculable amounts of property damage. It's like by now people just look up and say, oh fuck, is it Godzilla again? Oh, well, screw it, I need to get this laundry done. This transitions over to the Japan Self-Defense Force, where we're quickly introduced to Professor Fukuzawa, played by Saburo Shinoda, who you may recognize from the 1992 film Godzilla vs. Mothra, where he played the same character, but they also show us Sayaka Osawa, moving on from her role as the other Cosmos Fairy to that of Miru Ozawa, paleontologist turned special agent who has an important message from Dr. Marvin, played by Ronald Hoare. It's spelled H-O-E-R-R. I don't know. Oh, fuck, I can't even pronounce Vincent D'Onofrio right. Donofrio's... Dononagis?
Godzilla's power source, which is equal to the heart in a man, is nothing but a power reactor.
Major fucking questions that brings up. First of all, a nuclear reactor works by radiation heating water, which produces steam, which helps spin magnets around copper wiring, which generates electricity, and that's all well and great, but if his heart is nothing more than fucking radioactive mitochondria, what the fuck is his circulatory system?
I have here a thesis which accurately analyzes it from every point of view.
Every single point of view? Really? Well, where the fuck did you get that?
It came through the internet from a Japanese college boy. It's an interesting and certainly unusual opinion about Godzilla.
So you mean to tell me that the whole plot revolves around some college kid's scientific analysis Godzilla biology YouTube video? And you don't have actual scientists for this kind of shit? The kid in question is the son of the adopted son of Dr. Yamane from the original movie, Kenichi, played by Yasufumi Hayashi. We know this because Fukuzawa showed up at his house to talk about it. That and offer him a job at the G Center to help them the struggle to figure out the ever-changing monster of the monster movie. Problem is he doesn't want the job, or the prestige, he just does this shit for the lulz. His tone changes though when Fukuzawa gets a call from Miki.
Is she working at the G Center?
She is. She's heading the team looking for the little one.
Then I'll do it.
This calls for some research. Not bad. Not sweet Jesus tits, but not bad. We also learn that Kenichi has a sister, the famous reporter Yukari Yamane, played by Yoko Ishino. This goes right over to a TV spot where she is interviewing, or interrogating, the official scientist of this movie, Dr. Kensaku Ijuin, played by Takuro Tatsumi, digging into the deep questions of his mysterious invention, micro-oxygen.
What about the darker side of this invention, Doctor?
What darker side?
Well, I'd heard reports that it could be used in making weapons.
Oxygen-based weaponry, harkening back to the original Godzilla film, and the only one in the Showa era that is still considered canon in the Heisei era, plus the only way they ever managed to kill Godzilla. The Oxygen Destroyer. But this stuff's different and is used to grow life extra big, which is always a smart idea in a kaiju movie, and not destroy it. Besides, sure, you can make weapons out of it, but nobody wants to go to war, so who would do such a thing? That uncomfortable conversation out of the way, we move on to more plot building.
Oh, I've got a message for you.
Right, thanks.
Fuck, I only know like 5 letters in hiragana. Really hope that's not important. Well, at least we can count on the Miko Yamane to provide the backstory, played by Momoko Kochi, who played Emiko way back in the original movie.
It's almost identical to what Dr. Serizawa invented. It was way back in the 50s.
Yeah, I get it, it's a black and white harkening back to the original film. Plus it's Godzilla, so it's fucking awesome, and you can forgive her for using stock footage. But, all things considered, shouldn't this event be pretty well known in Japan, even in 1995? They refresh the new moviegoers, at least, that Oxygen Destroyer completely annihilates all life it sucks the oxygen out of, and was so dangerous that Dr. Serizawa took his own life so this terrible weapon would never be used once the threat of Godzilla was destroyed. Too bad he didn't account for sequels.
But now, this Dr. Ichiwan's new invention seems to be the same thing.
But surely not.
Serizawa made Oxygen Destroyer. Ijuin patented micro-oxygen. See, it's the little differences. It's like the Coke versus Pepsi of WMDs. She even drives down there to ask him again, but while he concedes that he referenced Serizawa's work, Ijuin insists that micro-oxygen is very different and not a cause for alarm. What is a cause for alarm is that Godzilla has continued rampaging across the world, destroying all in his path, and even heating up the ocean with his presence alone. From this, Kenichi deducts that the Bass Island incident didn't just supercharge Godzilla's radioactivity, but actually fundamentally changed it, leaving it on a constant overcharge where he can't cool down properly.
So what'll happen now?
Godzilla will increase in power. And finally, he will explode.
Are you quite sure?
Sorry, that just makes me imagine the writers of the movie were like, okay, Godzilla is cool, and explosions are cool, and holy shit, you guys! This isn't just your regular discount Michael Bay explosion, though. No. A Godzilla explosion is massive enough to ignite the atmosphere itself. An atomic explosion with enough force to knock down every building on Earth while simultaneously eradicating the entire biosphere. Don't worry, though, it's just an artist's interpretation. As things calm for the time being, Ijuin takes the opportunity to collect some soil samples from a recent Godzilla-induced wreckage.
It was the exact site where the first Godzilla was killed about 40 years ago, right?
You're very observant.
Especially considering they had to slowly explain to you what ultra never before seen, never seen again weapon was used in that incident, but This gets them to talk more about oxygen-related science fiction, but it seems more like the movie is interested in setting these two up as love interests, which at the very least helps humanize the character of Ichiwan.
You just seem such a romantic.
Well, maybe I am a romantic. But rest assured, I'm not a mad scientist, okay?
How long till his next mad science experiment?
Signs of life? Impossible.
Now fuck movie, I'm the one that's supposed to put it back to back and make the joke. This little discovery doesn't seem to lead anywhere, and hours later the team is wondering if it was just a computer glitch. Our mad doctor, on the other hand, isn't giving up hope.
So there was a life form in the sample.
Or the jar was already broken and life got in? I mean, there are little tiny microscopic life forms all around in the air, and you might have heard of them. They're called germs. Coincidentally enough, not long after that discovery, something strange is happening at the local aquarium. Oh God. It's like some mysterious force was just unleashed on the world, capable of turning fish into electrical Alka-Seltzer. The mystery of how this could happen stumps the rent-a-cop, so they call in Dr. Ichu in to watch that part of the movie and figure it out. Taking the tape back to his lab and pulling out some CSI-level image enhancement shit, they discover the culprit, the escaped life form. Ichuin hypothesizes it was a Precambrian life form from back when the world had no oxygen. The Cambrian explosion and introduction of oxygen put it into hibernation for billions of years. But then...
40 years ago, it was hit when the oxygen destroyer was first fired. And since then, it's been evolving abnormally.
Evolving like a Pokemon. Normally evolution requires reproduction of some kind, but fuck, we gotta get this plot moving. With that in mind, it doesn't take long until a mysterious monster appears at a warehouse in the Tokyo Bay. The special forces move in to hunt it down. And, is it just me, or does this look an awful damn lot like Aliens? I know a team heading into a dark area with guns kinda looks like Aliens no matter how you cut it, but still, the waist-mounted smart gun and fucking motion tracker? Well, at least the creatures don't look like they're ripping off xenomorphs. Except for the fact that it turns out there's a fuck ton of them, the team uses flamethrowers to drive them back, and of course... you got the little mouth inside the big mouth. Fuck, at this point I'm surprised they don't bleed acid or fucking burst out of people's chests. Although that would be awesome. In any case, the team mostly dies, but the reporter Yukari is saved in the nick of time by a handy-dandy flamethrower, actually killing one of the beasts. But let's not bother to use it on the rest. We've got more important things to worry about, like Godzilla closing in on a nuclear power plant, because his extreme nuclear energy requires more energy, for some reason. Thing is, they can't fight him off, or they risk a thermo-reptilian detonation. Or... they can if they utilize their Super X-3, a jet with far more bulk than any flying craft logically could have.
None of its weapon systems use explosive heads, though. They're all what we call freezer weapons.
Freezer weapons.
That's right.
It was designed as a weaponized solution for beer getting warm at the stadium, but come to think of it, it would be very handy in this Godzilla problem.
But who will pilot it?
Oh, yeah, him. The guy. I really should have watched the earlier movies first. Anyhow, this is Masahiro Takashima playing the role of Major Sho Kuroki. Not sure if he's supposed to be a previous character or not, because although he was in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, he played Kazuma Aoki in that. Whatever the case is, he and his team fly the Super X-3 out towards Godzilla and lay down the coolant, freezing the beast in place and saving the power plant.
The computer says that he should stay frozen for 6 hours. Over and out, sir.
Don't worry, there's plenty of time. He'll probably still make the climax. But lest we forget, Godzilla is not the only Godzilla in the Godzilla universe. I mean, fuck, we've got Mechagodzilla, Space Godzilla, and before they added Destoroyah, they were actually going to have Godzilla fight Ghost Godzilla in this movie. This one, however, is Godzilla Junior. Evidently, the radioactive eruption didn't kill him, but instead gave the lad a growth spurt. He's not a fully fledged Godzilla just yet, but more a teenage Godzilla, which probably means he's going to spend a really long time alone in his room.
He's going to his nest. Why didn't I think of that before?
Because you were convinced the eruption killed the little bastard? We did establish that. No time to celebrate the kid being alive, though, as it turns out that Godzilla has thawed out, and his temperatures are getting ridiculously hot. So hot, Kenichi believes they're in for something much worse than an explosion.
So what'll happen?
A meltdown.
Meltdown?
A movie that's still an explosion you're showing us, and not a meltdown. Or they're trying to tell us Godzilla will get so hot that not only will he melt, but the Earth's crust itself will melt, causing severe damage in a small area. Somehow this is worse than a worldwide explosion.
A meltdown is the worst scenario. Worse than explosion.
Option A, everyone dies. Option B, everyone dies. Planetary annihilation is bad and all, but they still have to deal with the Xeno kaiju on the loose, so the military gets involved, surrounding the area and cutting them off. Problem is, the monster has more tricks up its sleeve.
Micro-oxygen, there's too much of it, sir. It's gone haywire. What on earth is happening down there?
This is incredible. The creatures seem to have combined to form one big giant monster.
Okay, now I'm getting a Gamera vs. Legion vibe. Set that came out in 1996. Fuck. Anyway, the monster completely obliterates the front lines, leaving only the generals and scientists to calmly discuss this massacre.
I know micro-oxygen, and it doesn't have that kind of power.
So what does?
An oxygen destroyer.
And, we're most of the way through this movie. May as well name the thing.
Destroyer.
Destroyer?
Yes, Destroyer, now and forever. And don't worry, it's not like there's gonna be some angry nerd in the future who's gonna popularize shouting the alternate spelling on the internet or some shit. With that out of the way, Destroyer evolves up a pair of wings to fly the fuck out of there. This leaves the defense forces between being destroyed by Destroyer and a Godzilla meltdown. However, the fact that the Oxygen Destroyer killed Godzilla in the original movie is enough to get Kenichi to declare that getting the monsters to fight is the one shot they have at survival.
I have studied Godzilla more than anybody presently alive.
Kenichi, you're like 25. What, has everyone else just been slacking? But they need a lure, and wouldn't you know it, Miru Ozawa is your handy-dandy spare psychic lady for this movie, able to communicate with Godzilla Junior through feelings. I hope it makes more sense if you actually see the other films. Anyhow, the plan is to evacuate Tokyo, get Godzilla Junior to Tokyo, get Destroyer to fight Godzilla Junior, and get Godzilla to show up and defend Godzilla Junior. That's easier said than done, though. I know they didn't get all that much notice, but as long as we're referencing the first movie, can we mention the fact that in that one, they did evacuate a hell of a lot more efficiently? As we can expect, Godzilla Jr. isn't much of a fighter right now, and throwing a level 1 or 2 giant radioactive dino lizard monster against some pre-Cambrian kaiju final boss wasn't the most even matchup they could have gone with. And the little guy's getting his ass kicked. But lo and behold... Son, what the hell are you doing? This is Tokyo. This is your home, Tokyo. There's buildings. Who are you going to replace those buildings? Who's going to replace the buildings, son? Who showed you how to do? Where did you learn how to do this? Who taught you how to do this? You, all right? I learned it from watching you.
Parents who destroy Tokyo have children who destroy Tokyo.
Actually, Godzilla is still quite a distance away. So much so, by the time he gets to shore, it's suddenly nighttime. We also see that Destroyer, when he was destroyed by Godzilla Jr., was in fact not destroyed, and has evolved into his final form. The winged unicorn with the asshole on its chest. And this still isn't enough for the Battle Royale, so the military sends in the Super X-3 once more, due to Godzilla's ever-increasing temperature. Still, while Godzilla's the only one with a chance, that's 3 against 1. Unless this asshole has anything to say about it. So I guess Destroyer is a baby boomer? Huh? Huh? Okay, I'll stop. This dark turn of events sets up the final battle between Godzilla and Destroyer. As much as I want to be hyped about this, of course I have to point out the issues I have. Firstly, Destroyer's final form isn't an interesting one to me. He loses the inner mouth and most of his legs to become your average bipedal kaiju, albeit one with a big asshole chest that doesn't seem to do anything. Godzilla's okay, but his ultra power does come into question after he kills Destroyer, only to have the monster fly back into frame a little later. I get it, he's hard to kill, but do I even need to pay attention, movie? At the peak of the battle, Godzilla tears Destroyer's asshole a new asshole, and then begins to melt down. The Super X3 swoops in to stem the tide, but Godzilla has grown too hot. After destroying Destroyer, which I guess was real this time, he succumbs to the radiation. Or he just opened the Ark of the Covenant. Either way, as Godzilla melts, the radiation levels go crazy, and the sad music plays showing us this is how the world ends, not with a bang, but with a dirge. But wait, the radiation levels drop even faster than they rose! What a mysterious variable saved the world from destruction! Of course, Godzilla Junior isn't dead, but sucked in the radiation himself, which on him doesn't turn him into a ticking time bomb walking around waiting to destroy the world, but instead has him grow up and increase his power level to regular Godzilla. I think it's like super mutant science and some shit. Anyway, that was Godzilla vs. Destoroyah! It's pretty good, but there's a fuck ton going on in it. Being the finale of the Heisei era Godzilla films, though, I can forgive a lot of that. Most of the characters running around and points being brought up were already established earlier, so while it's confusing for someone like me jumping in on this one without seeing the prior entries, it's easy enough to presume that those following the movies properly wouldn't find it quite so jarring. That, and despite there being a lot of interlocking plot points, they all come together pretty well and nothing feels superficially tacked on. The story at work here is honestly very impressive, considering kaiju movies can easily get away with throwing whatever the fuck they want to the wayside as long as they give us city-stomping giant monster action. Or give me that, either way. The problems I had with this movie have to do with the fact that it feels like you really have to see the earlier ones to get everything that comes up. Not a deal breaker, but it's best for a movie to be able to stand on its own. Also, while Destroyer's design was really creative early on, and almost something you'd expect from a Gamera film, the final form seemed to give up that creativity and just give us another bipedal kaiju. Maybe it was for tradition, but still, it doesn't help when your ultimate form looks the least creative. Overall, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah is a great movie for fans of the genre, and an okay watch for newcomers. It does what it does well, even though with 20 things going on at once it can get a bit all over the place at times. Still, it earns 4 remarkably unimpressed pedestrians out of 5. Now, I'm definitely gonna have to track down and watch the rest of the Heisei series. At least for me, just so I know what the hell is with Japan and all these psychic women. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, Precambrian life forms. Not even once.
Godzilla! Look! He's coming right for us! Sound the alarm!